And a lot of my trauma comes from, what you're too loud, you're too excited, you're too. Yes, I get it. I get it. Yes, I'm excited. Um, I also will reach my goal before they will reach their goal because I am excited and I have a lot of energy. And yet you beat that out of me. And now I am traumatized and now I have CPTSD from it. And yeah, when somebody tells me I'm intense, I'm like, you're not the person for me then. I'm not going to mask my intensity because I have places I want to be. You're welcome to come with me. You're welcome to stay here. But yeah, it's okay to be intense. It's okay to be excited. It's okay. That means we're living life. And I think that people want to push that down because they're not in a happy place. And so rejoice in that intenseness. I do.
For most people that don't have ADHD, it's really difficult for them to kind of understand the concepts of the way that we are, because from the outside looking in, we're quite big contradictions, because we can't set routines, but we need a routine. We're time blind, but we need to be reminded about things. But then sometimes I get the hump because I'm like, I know, I'm not a 5-year-old, and it's like, waiting behind someone slow in the queue, or if I'm stuck in traffic, is like a physical pain. But everyone else needs to be patient if they're waiting for me. It's like the walking, talking contradiction.
And particularly for women with ADHD, I do think that damages the nervous system. And they've already linked fibromyalgia and now endometriosis to ADHD, undiagnosed ADHD. Yeah. I wonder where there's a connection with MS and all the other autoimmune diseases, because they've never been able to cure any of these autoimmunes, and they haven't really understood why they happen, what's going on. And it just makes so much sense to me, that kind of flight or fight. If it's an animal in the wild, they'll have that adrenaline and then they'll forget about it and move on. But we don't do that if we have an overactive imagination. We think about it constantly and we keep putting our body through it time and time again, even though it's not actually happening, but the memory of it happening is still just as bad on your body. And so I do honestly believe that has impacted my health. And why is it so many women have autoimmune diseases? Why is it so many women have been not diagnosed or misdiagnosed with depression or other mental health disabilities, but actually underneath it all, it's the ADHD that has potentially been the trigger for every one of us.
I can't remember exactly when I started taking it, but definitely feel like better. Like, it's just the cognitive fatigue that I get, when you're just tired and you can't really concentrate on any thoughts or anything, and it can be really, really, really debilitating some days. But like I have a lot of fatigue, like extreme fatigue, where it's like my head feels heavy. I can't lift my head up. It's weird. And it's that tired that I'm just like, I just can't not today. And then when the pain flares up, I know this is not possible, but this is how bad it feels. But it feels like the end of my hair's hurt because everything is so painful, and even soft, like painful to touch. And
I feel like my skin hurts.
Yeah.
Like my skin hurts.
Yeah.
I can feel that. Yeah.
So
I'm like, I don't get it as widespread as I used to.
And I think something else to keep in mind is that, what you're saying is true about how the brain rewires itself around addiction. And for a long time, the accepted model in the scientific community was that change is permanent. That once the brain is wired for addiction, that the brain is always wired for addiction and will always be addicted to something. And what we have learned in the last few years is that that's actually not true. And that in the same way that we can rewire our brain for addiction, we can also rewire our brain to eliminate or reduce those addictive patterns and behaviors, and that rewiring happens on a physical neurological level.
We don't always acknowledge the amount of, because I always say that as people with neurodivergence, we can do whatever anybody else can do, we just need to find a different way to do it. And sometimes those ways of doing something will take a lot longer, but we still we know we need that extra time to do something, but we still expect ourselves to complete it in the same time frame as somebody who has a different brain. So I know I need to do exercise because that's when I get more scatty. If I get stressed and I'm focused on something else and I deny myself that time, then I know that I start to lose the plot a little bit. So that's my indicator for me to take a step back and reflect. So now I'm allowing myself, and it's still a struggle because there's like a guilt thing, because it's almost like exercise is, an add-on and, a luxury and a treat and something you do on top of everything else. But for me, it has to be part of my day.
It's just how my brain works. Rather than beating myself up like I did for my entire life, I started thinking, this is just like having red hair instead of having blonde hair. It's just another phenotype. And this is probably the scientist in me that says that. But,
I love science, so yeah, don't talk about scientific stuff.
For me, it was that. And then I think consciously, what I started to do was unmasking. And funny enough, like I've seen my traits coming up more and more and more, but I realized also that I was less tired and less overwhelmed at the end of the day, and I had more energies. So I saw the good of it. I saw that I was creating a new path towards myself, towards my true identity. And that is fulfilling.
100%. I mean, one thing I will say about this project, there are people who household names that either they haven't got a diagnosis, but we know, or I've actually had conversations with people, and I won't give their names, but I've literally been told in the industry, in the British film and TV industry, that actually, Lizzie, I've had to hide my neurodivergence, and I still do, but I can talk to you about it, but I'm not going to go on camera and talk about it in your film if that's okay. So obviously, that's up to them. I think that's a mistake personally, but they're afraid they won't work again, or someone who I know, if I said their name, you'd know them. They were in a very important meeting, and they're like, well, we're a lot more interested in now that they've disclosed this information about themselves, which I think is just bonkers, behavior. But, those are the kind of people who making those key decisions.
One is the last role I had, I was very, very fortunate. I had a very understanding boss that I spoke to earlier about my ADHD and kind of how it manifests. And I said something to her that really resonated for her and really helped me, which was, I said, judge me on what I do, not how I do it. My methods and my ways might be unconventional, and I might do, there might be times when I do 5 minutes work in a day, and there might be days when I do 7 days work in an hour. But judge me on the output, not on the process. Let me let my ADHD be its thing and kind of benefit from that. But I think that plays into, I think part of the challenge is, as a society, if we keep it nice and structured and everybody does the same thing, it's really easy to manage. And ADHD challenges that and says, I don't work that way. The Microsoft and Apple example. And organisations, when you go to them and say reasonable adjustments or different ways of working, they often see it as a cost. They see it as this is difficult, this is going to cost me time, this is going to cost me effort, it's going to cost me money. And they don't look at it and say, this is an investment in taking the capability of this person and maximising it, because we're reducing the things that stop that capability coming through. They don't look at it and go, this is about retention. Now, if I can make these small adjustments, my staff will stay longer and I won't have to carry the cost of replacing that member of staff who's left because of these reasons. So it will take time, but reframing that and saying, this isn't about a cost, this isn't about a hassle for you, this is about an investment in a person and an understanding that there are multiple ways in which things can be done. Judge me by what I do, not how I do it. I think that journey is, people are going on that, but I think there's still a long way to go. And I think the best way that I can explain the challenge that we perhaps face as ADHDers in the misunderstanding of our brains in that kind of context. I actually heard a professor online talk about it a few months ago when he was talking about giving ADHD kids extra time in exams. And he basically said, a standard default, you've got a 3-hour exam, ADHD kids will get 30 minutes extra. He said, which is the most pointless thing in the world you can do, because we're time blind. Giving me 30 minutes extra means nothing. It doesn't achieve anything. And it's the worst way of addressing an ADHD need. It's a standard default answer to mental health or disability. Well, give me 30 minutes extra. So what you should actually do is you should give them the same 3 hours that everybody else has, but they have the ability to stop the clock at any point and go, I've done 20 minutes, I'm going to stop for 2 minutes, I'm going to spin around the room, get rid of my energy, get my focus back and come back and start the clock again. So I don't get any longer, but I get to work in a way that works for my brain, where I can do start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, rather than just 3 hours solid. And I think that mindset, and I love that analogy, and I think that mindset of getting employers to think less about the cost and the challenge and it breaks our current way of working, I think more about how do I maximize the potential of this great person, and how do I remove the friction and remove the challenges that are in their way, is a great way to do that. Noise cancelling headphones, being able to have fidget toys in the office, be able to work more from home, be able to have quiet spaces, be able to put agendas on meetings before you send them, having clearer ways of defining how you work with chat apps, defaulting to 25 instead of 30-minute meetings. No, there's an endless list of things that you can do, and it isn't actually that difficult once you start doing it.
But I bought this little pen because it's erasable. So you can write, and then it's got a little eraser on the end of it, because like one of the things, I've just written something down, it's damn near perfect except for that one thing that I had to cross out. Now I can erase it and make it great again. But what I really love is the one that I chose, because it's a little black cat, and it actually says, be curious. And I think that would be my top tip for anybody, is just like, but for everybody, not just like one brain or another, just be curious. Like, oh, that happened. And actually, I think that's a really good hack for neurodiverse folk. And it's certainly, we struggle to adapt to like the changing circumstances because we're so good at like understanding nuance and changes to people's body language, but we do tend to personalize it and go, it's all about me. And actually, no, it's not all about you. It's because of the fact that this has happened in their life, and actually their capacity is reduced, or they don't have they're super busy, and that they've made a quick snap decision. Everyone is, but they're just mirroring what you're doing too. Like if you're making a snap decision saying, oh, they hate me, well, actually be curious. Is that true? Like, why do you think that? And then go like, and how do I improve that relationship dynamic with somebody giving you the stink eye? I mean, for me, my thing at the moment, my massive hyper focus, it has been probably since I get in the diagnosis, but it's relationship dynamics. And like anything that it was interesting. I was having a conversation with my daughter last night, and she was saying that she hated silence. Like she's undiagnosed, but definitely.
My daughter is as well, yeah.
And my oldest daughter too they're both on the list to be diagnosed. But she was saying, I hate silence because silence means X, Y, and Z. And I said to her, okay, well, what we need to do next then is change your relationship with silence. Okay, and if silence was like your friends, what would you do? And she was going, well, I would look at it and say, I like you because of this. And I said, okay, so why do we like silence? So we talked about all of the things that we liked about silence. And it's okay, so we like all those things about silence, but and then that actually identified, okay, so what's actually happening in the silence is you believe that they're thinking negatively of you because they're silent. Well, what if actually you change that dynamic to they're thinking really great things about you in that silence, and silence is this wonderful benefactor of your life, not something that's really negative. And from that moment, she just changed, like silence is now, isn't definitely a good thing, because we know that silence isn't always, but silence could be a good thing instead of it always being a bad thing. And just that curiosity about changing how silence could be a good thing ended up changing her, like just automatically. She just kind of just relaxed. And I would say that if we're having a problem with anything that shows up, so I recently had an interaction with somebody where I said something and they labeled it as, oh, that wasn't very nice. And honestly, it sent me, and I was like, okay, so what is that? So that's judgment and criticism. That's them labeling a behavior. And so now I need, because I had a reaction to that emotionally, I felt that triggered something in me. I just need to change my relationship with judgment and criticism. Like, so, okay, so what do, employing this exactly the same hack, okay, so what if I was saying, like, I really like judgment and criticism because, or I admire judgment and criticism because if that was a person, then what are the benefits of it? And you go, oh, okay, so then you find out what the thing is about judgment and criticism that you can actually use to your benefit rather than to enable you to collapse. Yeah.
I do think it is a very it's a niche topic to talk about ADHD and addiction. And I've been sober since 2019. Though I understand, thank you. Clean from drugs since 2007, but I did start drinking again and got sober. But so addiction is a little bit of a niche conversation that I like to have. And particularly around alcohol, because the statistics around alcohol for undiagnosed women is quite high. That they're more likely to have, particularly undiagnosed, that becomes the coping strategy, that becomes their reward at the end of the day. And it is very easy to fall into a pattern of drinking more than you actually do, and not realizing that it's becoming such a problem.
So the ADHD tax is a great example, and every time I post on TikTok about the ADHD tax, I get, I've just picked up one video and there's 171 comments on it. So it's something that people really, really resonate with. I joke and say, I'm not allowed a library card, for instance. These are the sorts of things, aren't they, that we all can relate to. So I'm not allowed a library card by my husband because basically I never took the books back. I don't know how I've managed to survive to 47 without realising that I've got ADHD. Yeah. So I'm not, I just never could get organised enough to take them back. If you open my cupboards, I've got multiples of things. When I go shopping, I can never remember what I've got in the cupboard. I do actually write a list. I'm pretty good, and I do online shopping, but sometimes I can't be bothered to get up from the sofa to go and check in the cupboard. So I buy an extra one, and then I've got 20 of them in the cupboard.
Listen, I like people to be authentic, and this is about as authentic as you can get for two ADHD women. So I welcome the authenticity. Let's say,
So
if you can't laugh at yourself, then what left in the world have we got? Like, if you can't take the mickey out of yourself, then
exactly, and it's how I get through a lot of things. It's how I cope with a lot of things. It's how I deal, and I think laughter cheers everybody up as well. And I'm quite happy. I'll dance around my kitchen and around my dining room, and usually to something like Chesney Hawkes. I am the one.
Yes, I can't sing to save my life. If my life depended on it, I would be dead quickly because I can't sing. But just because I can't sing doesn't mean to say that I don't sing.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I say. I can't sing. I can sing, but other people's ears don't like it.
You're a pear. They're apples. You're in their fruit bowl, and they just want you to be an apple. So you've either got to be happy with being a pear, or jump out the fruit bowl and find other pears. And I was like, wow. And I've taken this thing on, right, called Be More Pear, #Be More Pear, because actually, what makes a good working environment or a good world? If we look at the world or working environment as a fruit bowl, who just wants a bowl of apples? Right? You want pears, strawberries, melons, pineapples, bananas, cherries, whatever it is. And I came away from that thinking, yes, I actually am a pear. I want to be a pear. Do you know what? Being a pear is great. Being an apple is great. But I can appreciate the apples. I just find that sometimes the apples don't appreciate pears. So now I go out of my way to continue to be a pear, right? And use that as a positive. So it's one of the greatest, simplest things that I've ever got used.
And that's when I was going through my light bulb sort of moment of like, oh, I think I've got ADHD. Like this, and all that sort of those pieces started to come together. And that's when I started talking about a little bit about what I was discovering about myself and going through that journey of getting diagnosed. And then obviously I've built quite a number of connections who are very similar to me, very work in different spaces, people across the planet, basically in America, Australia. You kind of connecting with all these people, but that unfiltered sort of reality and moving away from these robotic type posts that people put on, and it's all the same drivel. And like you, I connect better with people who are just authentically themselves, and because it's nothing worse than just coming across people who reiterate the same things over and over again, and and it's just there's no personality to it. So that's when I decided just to kind of start posting a bit more about my daily life, the challenges I go through, and I tried to keep it light-hearted because I'm not a serious person.
But just wanted to say something really quickly about RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria. I have to say that for 48, maybe 49 years of my life, that was debilitating for me. And it was only when I started recognizing when it's really triggered and kind of enabling my brain to be able to kind of understand why it's been triggered. It seems to ease a lot quicker for me now. It's not a foolproof thing, but it's almost used to feel like a visceral kick in the guts when I thought that I was being rejected, judged, criticised, whatever. So yeah, don't sit on them feelings on your own if you're an adult, then try and talk to someone. I co-regulate with my partner, I co-regulate with my friends. My partner's autistic, but I can co-regulate with him because he understands ADHD. He lives with me, so he's got to understand it. Yes, so just kind of, try and find someone that's safe that you can talk to about it, and try not to kind of blame yourself for feeling the way that you do about certain things.
But especially, I was very interested in grandparents because they have such a huge part to play. Because so many grandparents, myself included, we've just got a new granddaughter, are being asked to help with childcare. And if you don't understand what neurodiversity is, and you come at it with neurotypical parenting techniques like don't let them get away with that, you're making a rod for your own back, etc., etc., you're just going to make a difficult situation even more fraught with anxiety and judgment. For the parents are your children, aren't they, if you're the grandparent, and you're telling them that they're rubbish parents with the eye rolling and the tutting. So that's my mission, to help people to understand. So I like to talk about going from awareness about what it is, and the journey takes a long time sometimes, but to acceptance. And sometimes we have to grieve for the child that we don't have, the one we had in our imagination. And then the final step is to take action and work together as a team.
And when I say about the bringing out the best version of me, I absolutely will celebrate people. Like if someone's done well at something, I will. If I believe in them, if I see your post, I really like you, I like what you stand for, whatever else, and I will celebrate it. What I suddenly realised was that because I was around people that I probably didn't really like, and that's not against the law, people might not like me, I couldn't celebrate them. Then I felt really bad about that. Then I try and celebrate them, but it probably wasn't very authentic.
Like it's just made me feel better as a person that I'm not the only person with these kinds of stories. Like obviously, like part of me is like really sad for past versions of us and everything they went through, but also like it's really heartwarming to know that there are lots of us and we can all normalize these things and make it okay for each other and get rid of that shame that we've talked about and not judge each other. Like that's what it's all about, I think.
That's the main reason why I set up the podcast. No, the only reason really is for us diagnosed ADHD women, and men, but I focus mostly on women because I am a woman and I can't talk about men's experiences. But yeah, it's the main reason why I wanted, because I just wanted to kind of just be able to talk about things like we have done today, and in the other episodes with all of the amazing guests that I've had. And the fact that I'm now feel comfortable to show up as myself, which wasn't the case in the beginning.
Sometimes we can be talkative, but not to the degree that a combined person would be. So, like, I'm here talking today and I'm hoping I'm being, energetic, but I could not maintain this pace all day long. But someone who has the combined type could be at this level of intensity and thinking and talking and nonstop idea generation all day long. So that's how I describe the difference between the inattentive and the combined is sometimes we can do that, but we can't maintain it. And that when people think about having a superpower with ADHD, it's more those high energy people. Those of us that are inattentive, I don't think we'd ever talk about our ADHD being a superpower. And I don't like that language at all to start with. But I think we do have some gifts that come with ADHD, but it takes work to develop to benefit from our gifts.
Do you think your experiences have been different because you're a man in society? Obviously, you don't know what female experiences are because you're a man.
No.
Do you find, ADHD and autism, do you think that's been different because you're a man?
So it's difficult, like within just myself, or like how I've like people that I've come across.
Yeah, just because I think a lot of male guests that I've had, dependent, regardless of what job they do or anything, like, there's still that kind of masculinity type provider, like male stereotypical kind of point of view a lot in the world. And I just wonder if you have had worse experiences with your mental health or not being able to openly talk about things, just because it's like, hopefully we are the last generation of just man up and get on with it. And I do know that men's mental health has kind of been talked about a lot more in maybe the last 2 to 3 years. But I just wondered if, because you are a man and because there's a certain stereotype, like societal stereotype, that you should just be man up and get on with it.
Mine is like the Sahara Desert here, but no. So I think initially that's mostly was one of the factors why I maybe thought I'll just keep the news in house. And I think throughout my life I've always sort of like you say, would be the greatest showman. So maybe like unconsciously I've literally thought, I'm not going to speak about it or not going to talk about it. But the last couple of years I've sort of been like, I've literally done like a flip reverse. I've gone sort of being sort of within myself to now sort of being, like my daughter would say, or like a man of the people. So that's in like, just, I'm not, like this is me now, innit? So I've got to sort of, I'm not going to change it now. And it's now realizing that the struggle of being wearing that mask and acting and putting on a performance every shift or putting on a performance every day, trying to please people is just too tiring. So I can't be bothered now. So, and that's what it is. I'm just like, maybe I think within like sort of a work, if I go to like a mental health incident or a job, if it is a male, like you say, it's usually a point of crisis, and sort of like you say, it's sort of built up over a period of time. And they don't see they always just see sort of I'm trying to think word it properly. It's a temporary situation, isn't it? But I think with the built-up thing, they always just seek a permanent solution. So they obviously, and they won't talk about it, and they won't. And I get it because you, like you say, there is the masculinity bit, but I'm sort of on the other scale. I've sort of been with my wife since like 2007. Got a daughter. I don't go to the gym. I'd only have to ever go to the gym if my doctor said I needed to, if it was like for a health condition. So. I'm not really this over masculine sort of. I just literally take each day as it comes. Like I say, my day gets ended by missing the bins, but I've got other things that I mean. So I'm just who I am, really.
There are so many people, so many ADHDers who embrace their weird and who embrace their awkwardness and who embrace their irks and odd qualities. in their personal life, but when it comes to writing, they think, okay, so clearly I'm not cut out for this. Clearly I can't do this. No one else struggles with this. I just need to try harder, because that is what we were taught in school. You just need to try harder, apply yourself more, and then you can finally live up to that potential that you have and we know you have, and why haven't you reached it yet? And that narrative is so embedded in our subconscious. And as long as you don't see the stories of other people who have the same struggles you do and who have the same experiences you do, there's no reason to believe that you don't have to try harder, you just need a different way.
For most people that don't have ADHD, it's really difficult for them to kind of understand the concepts of the way that we are, because from the outside looking in, we're quite big contradictions, because we can't set routines, but we need a routine. You know, we're time blind, but we need to be reminded about things. But then sometimes I get a hump because I'm like, I know, I'm not a 5-year-old, and it's like, you know, waiting behind someone slow in the queue, or if I'm stuck in traffic, is like a physical pain. But everyone else needs to be patient if they're waiting for me. It's like the walking, talking contradiction. So I started studying psychology in September 23, and before that I tried and failed so many different things, and that kind of almost became like that self-fulfilling prophecy that I'm not going to be able to do this, but I'm going to try it. And I think the main thing that I did when I started my degree is by the second module, I was just so overwhelmed, and I just thought none of this makes sense. Like, and I used to say to staff and to other students, like, they're almost teaching me in Chinese, and I have to translate it from English to Chinese, and then or whatever language, and then do the academic writing in the Chinese, and then get my understanding. Sorry, so yeah, translate what they're teaching me in from it to my language, and then I have to translate it back to write it in like an assignment or whatever they ask. And like you, it is exhausting. And the only reason why I haven't dropped out of my studies is because I reached out for help. I asked for support, and I showed up for myself. And in the beginning, like, people were saying, so what do you need? I was like, I don't know what I need. I've never been a distance learner. Yeah, exactly. I've never been a distance learner like you. You've never been a hybrid learner. I've never kind of done any higher education. Like, I did quite a few things, so I didn't have to do like an access course to get in. But I've never, you know, and it's like, but now I can tell you exactly what I need, because obviously I've had the experiences. But when I started, people used to say, so what do you need? And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, well, how can we help you if we don't know what you need? And I'm like, that's your job, is to help me find out what I need.
Yeah.
You know.
And the fact that our systems don't know that, and I would say a lot of that probably has to do with that difference between male and female. And the way our brains are wired, the way we present. I mean, that's a broad generality, recognizing that there's a whole spectrum of that as well. But I would say, like, extra time on tests and note takers and things like that. I know my son did really well with supports in school when he needed them. My daughter, she didn't need any of that at all. And what she did need, she didn't know what she needed, and then they couldn't help her. So, you know, those supports don't exist. Sorry. You know, it's like, you would think after all of these years, all of these decades, that specifically in higher ed, we could do better with supports.
A lot better. A million times better, I think. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I know there are support systems that are in place, not just in the UK, but globally, you know, where you are, where you work, where you've studied. I know there are support systems in place, and yeah, you know, like we've just highlighted, a significant issue with any support is you don't necessarily know what you need. And, you know, I've had to kind of learn in a way that's, because they teach you in a one size fits all. and this probably happens globally, so they teach you in a neurotypical way. So you've got to get from A to B, and to get to A to B, you need to do, like, you know, this, and this.